When I was a young man, I set out from Miletus to go to the Olympic Games. Since I wanted also to visit these parts of a famous province, I travelled through the whole of Thessaly and reached Larissa. My travelling allowance had run out. Wandering through the city, while I was looking for a remedy for my poverty, I caught sight of an old man in the middle of the forum. He was standing on a stone and proclaiming in a loud voice that anybody who wished to guard a dead body would receive a great reward. And I said to somebody passing by, "What is this I hear? Are the dead here in the habit of running away?" "Be quiet," he replied. "For you are a boy and a mere stranger, and naturally you do not know that you are in Thessaly, where witches are always biting pieces out of the faces of the dead. These are extra ingredients in their magic art." In reply I said, "What sort of protection is needed?" "First of all," he replied, "for the whole night you have to stay fully awake, with your open and sleepless eyes constantly directed on the corpse, nor must your gaze ever be turned away anywhere, since those dreadful witches creep up secretly with their shape changed to that of any animal they choose. For they take on the appearance of birds and dogs and mice and indeed even flies." After taking in these facts, I strengthened my spirit and at once approaching the old man, I said, "Now stop shouting. Your guard is here and ready." I had scarcely finished when he led me at once to a house where he pointed out a woman weeping and dressed in dark clothes. She got up and took me into a bedroom. There she uncovered with her hand a body which was in shining white sheets. When she had pointed out the individual features anxiously, she left. Left alone in this way for the comforting of the corpse, with my eyes rubbed and ready for guard duty, while I calmed down my spirit with songs, I kept awake until the middle of the night. My fear was increased when a weasel crept in, stood facing me and fixed his eyes on me. Such self-confidence in so tiny a creature alarmed my spirit. Finally I said this to it, "Go away, wicked beast, before you soon feel my strength. Go away." The weasel turned its back and at once left the bedroom. Without delay a sleep suddenly overwhelmed me so deep that not even the god of Delphi could easily decide which of the two of us lying there was the more dead. I finally awoke at dawn and terrified with great panic ran up to the corpse. I brought the lamp near and uncovered his face and examined everything closely. Nothing was missing. Behold, the wretched wife burst in weeping. She inspected the corpse and gave me my payment without delay. He said, "For the sake of your honor, O citizens, for the sake of public duty, help a murdered citizen and punish severely the meanest crime of that wicked and criminal woman. For it was she, and not any other, who murdered with poison a wretched young man, my sister's son, for the gratification of her lover, and to profit from the inheritance. She was pouring out tears, and swearing by all the gods as piously as she could, she denied so great a crime. The old man therefore said, Let us place the judgment of the truth in divine providence. Zachlas, a very famous Egyptian prophet, is here, and he promised that for a large payment he would bring back the spirit of that corpse briefly from the underworld and would reanimate the body." I pushed my way into the crowd and standing on the stone right behind the bier itself I watched it all with curious eyes. Now the breast of the corpse seemed to be raised with swelling, now the body seemed to be filled with breath. The corpse sat up and spoke out, "Why, I ask you, after I have drunk the waters of Lethe and am now sailing on the Stygian marshes, do you bring me back to the functions of a momentary life? Cease now, I pray, cease and let me go to my rest." This voice was heard from the body, but the prophet somewhat more forcefully said, "Why don't you tell the people all about your death?" He replied from the bier and addressed the people thus with a deep groan. Snatched away by the wicked arts of a new bride and a victim of a poisoned drink, I gave back my warm bed to her lover. I will give you very clear proof of the truth, and I will disclose that which absolutely nobody else could know or predict. Then pointing me out with his finger he said, "For when this most keen-witted guard of my body was keeping his alert guard over me, some witches, eager for my remains, appeared with their shape changed. When they had failed to deceive his determined diligence, they finally cast a cloud of sleep and buried him in deep sleep. Then they began to rouse me by name and did not stop until my sluggish joints and cold limbs were slowly struggling to obey their magic art. This man, however, who was alive and only dead asleep, had by chance the same name as me. At the sound of his name, therefore, he got up mistakenly, and proceeding mechanically in the manner of a lifeless ghost, he went to the door. Although the doors of the bedroom had been carefully locked, through a hole first his nose was cut off, and soon his ears, and so he suffered mutilation instead of me. Then the witches attached wax to him shaped in the manner of the amputated ears and fitted on a nose similar to the one they had cut off. Now the wretch stands here, having earned the payment not through his good work but by his mutilation. Terrified at these words, I began to examine my appearance. I grasp my nose with my hand, it comes off. I touch my ears, they fall off. And while the crowd identifies me with pointed fingers and nods, between the feet of those standing around I make my escape, dripping with cold sweat. Nor afterwards could I return to my native land, maimed in this way and thus ridiculous, but with my hair grown long on both sides I hid the injuries to my ears, and indeed for decency's sake I covered up the disgrace of my nose with this cloth.